I can't do this anymore. Obese girl gets bullied. Her entire life until a mountain man shows up. The Dakota Territory sun beat down mercilessly on the small town of Riverside Crossing in July 1877. In the alley behind Miller's General Store, 25-year-old Abigail Werner pressed herself against the rough wooden wall, trying to make herself invisible as three women passed by carrying shopping baskets. "Did you see her at church on Sunday?" Mrs. Jameson's voice carried clearly. "That dress was practically bursting at the seams. Honestly, how does she show her face in public? I heard the Reverend had to order a special reinforced pew just for her," Mrs. Clark added with a cruel laugh. "Can you imagine the cost?" "Poor thing. Although I suppose poor is the wrong word. She certainly doesn't miss any meals." Their laughter faded as they rounded the corner, but the damage was done. Abigail slid down the wall until she sat in the dust, her substantial frame folding in on itself as tears streamed down her round face. 25 years. 25 years of mockery, cruelty, and relentless bullying. It had started when she was 5 years old, the first day of school when children pointed and called her the fat girl. It continued through her teenage years when young men made bets about who could lift her or made crude jokes about her appetite. It persisted into adulthood when she became the town's convenient target, the person people mocked to feel better about themselves. Abigail had tried everything. She'd starved herself until she fainted. She'd worked herself to exhaustion at her job cleaning the hotel. She'd prayed until her knees ached. Nothing changed. The weight remained, and with it, the endless soul-crushing cruelty. She pulled herself to her feet and made her way back to the hotel through the back streets, avoiding Main Street where people might see her. The Hotel Riverside was the only place in town that had hired her, and that was only because the previous owner had been desperate. "Abigail, there you are." Mrs. Fletcher, the current hotel owner, bustled over with her usual pinched expression. "The floors in rooms 3 through 7 need scrubbing, and the linens from yesterday still aren't finished. What have you been doing all morning?" "I went to get the supplies you asked for from Miller's. That should have taken 20 minutes, not 2 hours. Honestly, I don't know why I keep you on. You're slow as molasses and eat more than you're worth in wages." Abigail bit her lip and nodded. "I'll get to work immediately." She spent the afternoon on her hands and knees, scrubbing floors until her back screamed in protest and her knees were raw. When she finally finished the last room, it was nearly dark. In her tiny room at the back of the hotel, barely larger than a closet, Abigail sat on her narrow cot and stared at her reflection in the small, cracked mirror. A heavy woman looked back at her. Not just heavy, huge. Face flushed from exertion, hair plastered to her forehead with sweat, dress stained with dirty water. "Why?" she whispered to her reflection. "Why did I have to be born like this? What did I do to deserve this?" The reflection had no answers. That night, Abigail lay awake listening to the sounds of the hotel, couples laughing in nearby rooms, footsteps in the hallway, the distant sound of piano music from the saloon down the street. Everyone else was living normal lives. Everyone else belonged somewhere. Everyone except her. The next day brought more of the same. As Abigail carried laundry to the creek for washing, a group of teenage boys spotted her. "Hey, look, it's the hotel elephant. Careful, if she falls in the creek, she'll flood the whole town." "How much do you reckon she weighs? My pa's cattle don't weigh that much." Abigail kept walking, her face burning. She learned years ago that responding only made it worse. Silence was her only defense. But silence was also slowly killing her. She washed the linens mechanically, her hands moving while her mind drifted to dark places. What if she just walked into the creek and didn't come back out? What if she disappeared into the wilderness and never returned? Would anyone even notice she was gone? Or would they just be relieved? The thought terrified her, because it was becoming more appealing every day. By the time she hauled the wet laundry back to the hotel, she was exhausted. Mrs. Fletcher met her at the door, face twisted with anger. Where have you been? I needed those linens an hour ago. We have new guests arriving. I'm sorry, I was washing them as fast as As fast as you could? That's the problem, Abigail. Your fast isn't fast enough. Mrs. Fletcher's voice rose, drawing attention from people on the street. You're lazy, you're slow, and you're costing me money. I should have fired you months ago. Please, I need this job. I have nowhere else to go. That's not my problem. You should have thought about that before. Before what? Abigail's voice cracked. Before being born in the wrong kind of body? Before existing in a way that offends you? What exactly should I have thought about? Mrs. Fletcher's eyes widened in shock. Abigail never talked back. How dare you? No, how dare you? Something inside Abigail snapped. 25 years of swallowed pain came pouring out. I work harder than anyone in this hotel. I scrub floors you wouldn't touch. I haul laundry that would break your back. I do the jobs no one else wants, and I do them without complaint. And what do I get? Mockery. Cruelty. Your constant criticism about my body, my speed, my worth. People had stopped on the street staring at the scene unfolding. Abigail, lower your voice. Why? So I don't embarrass you? So people don't hear how you treat me? Abigail's voice rose, carrying across the street. You all want to know why I'm slow? Because I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted from working myself to death for wages that barely cover a room the size of a closet. I'm exhausted from being mocked every single day. I'm exhausted from pretending your cruelty doesn't hurt. Mrs. Fletcher's face turned purple. You're fired. Pack your things and get out. Fine. Abigail threw the basket of wet laundry at Mrs. Fletcher's feet. I'm done. Do you hear me? I'm done. She ripped off her work apron and threw it on the ground. I can't do this anymore. I can't spend one more day being treated like I'm less than human because of my size. I can't endure one more cruel comment, one more mocking laugh, one more day of being the town's entertainment. Tears streamed down her face, but she didn't care anymore. Let them see her cry. Let them see the damage they'd done. I didn't choose this body. I didn't choose to be fat, but you all chose to be cruel. You chose to make every day of my life a living hell, and I can't. I just can't do this anymore. She turned and ran. Actually ran, despite her size, despite the pain in her knees, despite the gasping for breath. She ran down the street, past the staring townspeople, past the children pointing and laughing, past all of it. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew she couldn't stay. The edge of town gave way to open prairie, and still Abigail ran. Her lungs burned, her legs screamed, but the pain felt almost good. It was real pain, honest pain, not the soul-deep ache of constant humiliation. Finally, her body gave out. She collapsed near a stand of cottonwood trees by the river, gasping and sobbing. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. It was beautiful. Abigail looked at the river, flowing swift and deep. It would be so easy. Just walk in, let the current take her, end the pain forever. She stood on shaky legs and walked toward the water. Wouldn't do that if I were you. Abigail spun around, heart racing. A man stood 20 feet away, having emerged from the trees so quietly she hadn't heard him approach. He was massive, at least 6.5 feet tall, with shoulders that seemed to block out the setting sun. He wore buckskin clothing marked with trails and weather, and his dark hair hung past his shoulders. His face was weathered and scarred, suggesting a hard life lived outdoors. But it was his eyes that caught Abigail's attention, pale gray eyes that held no judgment, no mockery, just calm assessment. "River's deeper than it looks," the man continued in a low, rumbling voice. "Current's strong this time of year. You'd be swept away before you could change your mind." "Maybe that's what I want," Abigail said, her voice hoarse from crying. The man studied her for a moment, then gestured to a fallen log. "Mind if I sit?" "It's not my log." "Technically, it's not anybody's log." He sat down with the ease of someone accustomed to the wilderness. Name's Tobias Blackwood. Most folks call me Black. I'm a trapper from up in the Bighorn Mountains. Abigail didn't know why she was having this conversation with a stranger when moments ago she'd been contemplating ending her life. But something about his calm presence, his lack of shock at her sighs or her tears, made her stay. Abigail Werner. Pleased to meet you, Miss Werner. He pulled out a water flask and took a drink, then offered it to her. You look like you could use some. Abigail hesitated, then accepted the flask. The water was cool and sweet. She drank deeply, realizing she'd run nearly a mile in the heat and was severely dehydrated. Thank you. You're welcome. Black was quiet for a moment, watching the river. Been listening to the commotion in town for the past hour. Interesting scene at the hotel. Abigail's face burned. You were there? Came into town for supplies. Happened to be at Miller's when you made your declaration. He glanced at her. Took courage, speaking up like that. It took 25 years of misery reaching a breaking point. That's not courage. That's desperation. Sometimes they're the same thing. Black pulled out some jerky from his pack and offered her a piece. You eat? Abigail started to refuse automatically, the way she always did when offered food in public. Then she remembered. She didn't care anymore. She'd just quit her job and told off the whole town. What did it matter if this stranger saw her eat? Thank you. She took the jerky and ate it gratefully. She hadn't eaten since a small breakfast that morning. They sat in companionable silence as the sun set, eating jerky and watching the river flow past. For the first time in longer than Abigail could remember, she felt peaceful. Can I tell you something, Miss Werner? Black said after a while. Abigail. And yes. I've been living in the mountains for 12 years. Up there, you know what matters? Strength, resilience, whether you can survive a blizzard, outthink a grizzly, make it through winter with limited supplies. You know what doesn't matter? What you look like. He turned to face her fully. I watched you haul laundry this afternoon. Those baskets weighed 60, 70 pounds each. You carried them half a mile to the creek, washed everything by hand, then carried them all back, uphill, in July heat. That's strength most men in that town couldn't match. Abigail felt tears threatening again. You don't understand. I've been mocked my entire life. I understand better than you think. Black pulled up his sleeve, revealing scars, terrible burn scars covering his forearm. Got these when I was 16. House fire. Killed my parents, nearly killed me. For years, people stared, pointed, called me monster face because the scars extend up my neck. He let his sleeve fall back down. Came to the mountains to escape that. Found something better than escape. Found perspective. The mountains don't care about scars. They care if you're strong enough to survive them. And up there, I learned my worth isn't determined by how I look. It's determined by who I am and what I can do. But I can't just run away to the mountains. Why not? The question was so simple it took Abigail's breath away. Because I don't know how to survive there. You could learn. You're clearly strong, clearly capable of hard work. Those are the skills that matter in wilderness living. He stood and offered her his hand. Come on. Let's get you back to town before it's full dark. But while we walk, think about something. What? What if you stopped trying to fit into a world that doesn't value you and found a world that does? They walked back toward town in the gathering darkness. Abigail's mind churned with Black's words, a world that valued her. Such a thing seemed impossible. Where will you go? Black asked as the lights of Riverside Crossing appeared in the distance. Now that you're no longer employed. I don't know. I suppose I'll have to beg Mrs. Fletcher to take me back. No. The firmness in Black's voice stopped her. No. You just spent 25 years in a place that treated you like you were worthless. Going back would prove them right, that you have no other options, that you'll accept any treatment just to survive. Is that what you want? Of course not. But what choice do I have? I have no money, no skills, except cleaning and laundry. You have strength, resilience, the ability to work hard under difficult conditions. Those are valuable skills. Black stopped walking and turned to face her. I'm going to make you an offer. You can refuse it. No hard feelings. But hear me out first. Abigail nodded slowly. I need help at my mountain station. I trap furs, which requires me to be away from my cabin for days at a time. While I'm gone, things fall apart. Food spoils, equipment breaks, the place becomes a mess. I also need someone to help process the pelts, prepare food stores for winter, maintain the cabin and grounds. He held up a hand before she could speak. Before you say anything, understand this. It's hard work. Mountain living is brutal. Long winters, isolation, danger from animals and weather. But you'd have your own room, regular meals and wages, $20 a month, which is more than you were making at the hotel. Bart. $20. Abigail had been making $12 monthly at the hotel, with half going for her tiny room. Why would you offer this to me? You don't know me. I know enough. I watched you work today. I saw your strength. I heard you finally stand up for yourself after 25 years of abuse. That tells me you're capable, you're resilient, and you've reached the point where you're ready for change. His gray eyes were steady. Plus, I need help, and you need escape. Seems like a mutually beneficial arrangement. People will talk. A woman going to live with a man in the mountains? People are already talking about you. At least this way, you won't be there to hear it. Black's voice softened. Look, I'm not offering romance or anything improper. I'm offering employment. Honest work for honest pay. You'd have privacy, respect, and most importantly, you'd be valued for what you can do rather than mocked for how you look. Abigail's mind raced. Leave Riverside Crossing? Leave civilization entirely? It seemed insane. But what did she have here? No job, no friends, no family. Her parents had died years ago. Just endless mockery and a future of the same. I need to think. Take the night. I'm camped outside town. I'll be at Miller's General Store at 8 tomorrow morning, buying my last supplies before heading back to the mountains. If you decide to come, meet me there with whatever belongings you want to bring. If not, I wish you well. He tipped his hat and walked away into the darkness, leaving Abigail standing at the edge of town, her mind spinning. She went to the hotel to collect her belongings. Not many, just 2 changes of clothes, her mother's Bible, and a small tin of savings, $8 painfully accumulated over 2 years. Mrs. Fletcher wasn't there, which saved an awkward confrontation. Abigail spent the night in her tiny room, staring at the ceiling, weighing her options. Stay in Riverside Crossing. Find another job, unlikely given her reputation. Endure more mockery, live a small, painful life until it ended. Go to the mountains, risk everything on a stranger's offer, face unknown dangers, but potentially find respect and purpose. The choice should have been difficult. But as dawn broke through her small window, Abigail realized it wasn't difficult at all. She'd already decided she couldn't do this anymore. She'd already quit, already burned those bridges, already declared she was done. The only question was whether she had the courage to actually leave. At 7:30, Abigail stood at Miller's General Store, her meager belongings in a small pack, wearing her most practical dress and her sturdy work boots. Black emerged from the store at 8 o'clock sharp, carrying supplies. When he saw her, something that might have been approval flickered in his gray eyes. You came. I did, though I might regret it. You might. Mountain living isn't easy, but I promise you this, you'll be treated with respect, paid fairly, and valued for your contributions. That's more than you had here. He helped her onto his pack horse, a sturdy mare who didn't even flinch at Abigail's weight. Black mounted his own horse with practiced ease. As they rode out of Riverside Crossing, people stopped to stare. Abigail saw Mrs. Fletcher's shocked expression, saw Mrs. Jameson whisper frantically to Mrs. Clark, saw the teenage boys who'd mocked her gaping. For the first time in her life, Abigail didn't care what they thought. She was leaving. She was choosing something different. "Any regrets?" Black asked as the town disappeared behind them. Abigail thought about 25 years of mockery, about soul-crushing jobs and endless cruelty, about standing by the river contemplating whether life was worth living. "No," she said firmly, "no regrets at all." The journey to Black's mountain station took 3 days. They traveled through increasingly rugged terrain, sleeping under the stars at night, following trails that seemed to exist only in Black's mind. On the second day, they encountered a grizzly bear. Abigail froze in terror, but Black calmly placed himself between her and the massive animal, speaking in low, firm tones until the bear lost interest and ambled away. "First rule of mountain living," Black said afterward. "Respect the wildlife, but don't fear it. Fear makes you stupid. Respect makes you careful." They reached the cabin late on the third day. It sat in a beautiful valley surrounded by pine forests, with a clear stream running nearby and mountains rising in every direction. The cabin itself was larger than Abigail expected. 2 rooms, a loft, and a covered porch. Behind it stood a smokehouse, a small barn, and a workshop for processing pelts. "It's beautiful," Abigail breathed. "It's functional," Black corrected. "The main room is communal, cooking, eating, working. The back room is yours. The loft is mine. There's privacy if you want it." He showed her around, explaining systems he'd developed over years of solitary living. Abigail listened carefully, committing everything to memory. "Questions?" Black asked after the tour. "When do I start work?" "Tomorrow. Tonight rest. Recover from the journey. Get familiar with the space." But Abigail couldn't rest. 25 years of being called lazy had conditioned her to prove her worth through constant work. She unpacked her few belongings, then went to the main room and started organizing the chaotic supplies. Black watched from the doorway, saying nothing, just observing as Abigail brought order to his neglected cabin. Over the following weeks, Abigail discovered several things. First, mountain work was indeed brutal. Hauling water from the stream, chopping firewood, helping process pelts, preserving food, and 100 other tasks. But it was also satisfying in a way hotel work had never been. She could see the results of her labor, could take pride in a well-organized cabin or properly cured hide. Second, Black was a man of his word. He treated her with consistent respect, paid her fairly, and never made inappropriate demands. When he was at the cabin, they worked together efficiently. When he was gone checking trap lines, she managed things independently. Third, and most surprisingly, Abigail was good at this life. Her strength, which had been mocked in civilization, was an asset here. She could haul heavy loads, work long hours, and endure hardship without complaint. Black praised her competence regularly, something no one had ever done before. But the biggest discovery was about herself. One afternoon, about 6 weeks after arriving at the mountain station, Abigail caught her reflection in the stream. The woman looking back was different from the one who'd left Riverside Crossing. Her face was tanned and healthy. Her arms were strong and defined despite her size. Her eyes held confidence instead of defeat. She was still fat. Mountain living hadn't changed that. But she was also strong, capable, and valued. And for the first time in 25 years, Abigail realized something profound. Her worth wasn't determined by her size. It was determined by her character, her capabilities, and her choices. The revelation made her cry, not tears of pain, but tears of relief. All those years of believing she was worthless because of her body, and it had been a lie, a cruel, destructive lie. "You all right?" Black's voice came from behind her. Abigail wiped her eyes. "Better than all right. I'm free." Black nodded understanding. "Took me about the same amount of time to figure that out when I first came to the mountains. Civilization teaches you that certain things matter: appearance, status, fitting in. The wilderness teaches you what actually matters: strength, resilience, character. Thank you, Abigail said quietly, for giving me this chance. You earned it. You've worked harder than any assistant I could have hired. The cabin's never been better organized. The food stores are excellent, and you handle yourself well in difficult situations. He paused. Frankly, I'm hoping you'll stay past your initial contract. I'll pay more if that helps persuade you. Abigail smiled, a genuine full smile. I'm not going anywhere. Winter came early and hard to the mountains. By October, snow had closed the passes, sealing Abigail and Black into their valley. They worked together to prepare, stockpiling firewood, preserving the last of the hunt, ensuring all equipment was in perfect condition. The isolation should have been oppressive, but Abigail found it peaceful. For the first time in her life, she had a home where she was valued, a partner who respected her, and work that gave her purpose. Then, in late March, as the snow began to melt, visitors arrived. 3 men rode into the valley, rough types with hard eyes and guns worn low. Black was out checking the trap lines, leaving Abigail alone. The lead rider dismounted with a mocking grin. Well, well, the fat girl from Riverside Crossing. Wondered if the rumors were true. Abigail recognized him, Wade Pritchard, one of the men who'd regularly mocked her in town. What do you want? Heard you've been living up here with some mountain man. Folks back in Riverside are real curious about that arrangement. His smile turned nasty. Mrs. Fletcher sent us to check on you, make sure you're not being misused. It was a lie, and they both knew it. These men weren't here out of concern. They were here to cause trouble. I'm fine. You can leave. Now don't be rude. We came all this way. We came all... Douchey Wade stepped closer. Besides, maybe you're lonely up here. Maybe you'd like some company. Touch her and you die. Black's voice cut across the valley like a whip. He stood at the edge of the clearing, rifle raised and pointed directly at Wade's chest. This is private property. You're trespassing. Leave. Now. Wade's companions reached for their guns, but Black was faster. He fired a warning shot that kicked up dirt 2 inches from Wade's boot. Next one's through your knee, one after that through your skull. Choose. The 3 men exchanged glances, clearly recalculating. Black's reputation as a mountain man carried weight. These were men who survived in conditions that killed soft, civilized folks. We're leaving, Wade said, backing toward his horse. But people are going to hear about this, about you keeping her up here. Tell them whatever you want. She's my employee, legally hired and fairly paid. What happens on my property is none of Riverside Crossing's business. Black's voice was steel. And if any of you come back, you'll leave in pieces. After they rode away, Black lowered his rifle and turned to Abigail. You okay? Yes, thank you. For what? For defending me, for not treating me like I'm worthless. Abigail, you're one of the most valuable people I know. You've made this place work better than it has in 12 years. You've proven yourself capable of handling any challenge thrown at you. You're not worthless. You're essential. The words broke something open in Abigail's chest. I spent 25 years being told I was nothing, that my body made me less than human, that I deserved mockery and cruelty. I believed it, Black. I believed I deserved every awful thing that happened to me. And now? Now I know different, because you showed me. You treated me like I had value, and in doing so, you helped me find my own worth. She stepped closer. I'm not the same woman who left Riverside Crossing. That woman was broken, defeated, ready to end it all. This woman is strong, capable, worthy of respect. Yes, you are. So I have a question for you. Ask it. This arrangement, employee, employer, professional distance, is that what you want, or is there something else here? Black was quiet for a long moment. What do you want, Abigail? I want, she took a breath. I want to stay, not just as your employee, as your partner in everything, building this life, facing challenges, growing old together, if you'll have me. Abigail, I'm 16 years older than you. I'm scarred, rough, not exactly romantic. You're the first person who ever treated me with consistent respect, who valued me for my capabilities instead of mocking me for my appearance, who showed me I could be strong and worthy and enough exactly as I am. She met his gray eyes steadily. That's worth more than romance. That's everything. Black pulled her into his arms, their first real embrace. Abigail felt tears stream down her face, but they were tears of joy. Then yes, Black said, partners in everything.